Welcome to another hands-on lesson. In this lesson, we're going to launch some Docker containers on Amazon ECS. I've navigated to the Elastic Container Service Management Console. Now, what we need to do here is create a cluster. In our cluster, we're then going to be able to launch our tasks, and those tasks are based on task definitions. We'll also be able to create a service so we can define the number of tasks we want to run at any one time. So what I'm going to do first is go to create my task definition. I'm going to create a new task definition, and I'm going to call this one my-nginx, so N-G-I-N-X. Now for container details, this is also going to be nginx without the my dash on the beginning. The URI is going to be nginx, so we just keep those two the same. Okay, so this is really just the name of the task definition, and here we're specifying the name of the container and then the actual image that's going to be downloaded from Docker Hub. In this case, it's going to be the nginx web server. So with these details specified, we can scroll down. We're going to leave the container port as port 80. We can see it's using TCP and it's going to be the HTTP protocol. It's got a port name. We can just leave that as it is. Everything there looks fine. Let's click on next. Here you get to choose the application environment you want to enable this task definition for. So you've got Fargate, and then you've also got Amazon EC2 instances, which is where we're using the EC2 launch type. In this case, we just want to use Fargate. That's fine. We're going to use a serverless deployment. For the other details here, you can change these if you want to. I might just reduce this a little bit. So I've got 0.5 of a vCPU. And in terms of memory, a gigabyte should be more than enough. We don't need to specify a task role. This is for when you want to assign an IAM role that defines the permissions that you want the task to be able to use. The task execution role is required, and that's going to be created for you. So we just leave that as it is. Let's scroll down. We'll leave all the defaults for log collection. Click on next, come to the bottom, and then just create our task definition. So that's been created. Now let's go to clusters and create a cluster. I'm going to call this one my-Fargate-cluster. I'm going to leave the VPC as the default VPC with all subnets enabled, and the namespace can stay as it is as well. In this case, we're just using Fargate, so the serverless implementation. We're not using EC2 or ECS Anywhere, which is used when you want to run the ECS containers on premises. So we can just create the cluster, and the cluster creation is usually a very quick process. You can also view what's happening in CloudFormation if you like as well. Once the cluster is ready, we'll then be able to launch our first task. So here we can see what's going on. You can always monitor CloudFormation, and then once the cluster is ready, we'll go back and we're going to launch a task. Okay, I think mine is just about complete, so let's come back, and sure enough, it looks complete in the ECS console. So now I'm going to select the cluster. We're going to launch a task individually first. Now we could create a service, but the first thing we'll do is just launch a task from here. So click on tasks and then run new task. We're going to leave the default selection here with Fargate as the capacity provider. We have task selected. We're going to select my-nginx, and we're just going to launch one task. Now let's have a look at networking. So for networking, we can see the VPC and the subnets. Of course, we don't need to change that, but we might want to change the security group. So I'm going to find the web access here, and that should have the port that we need for nginx, which is port 80. So I've got my web access security group. See if there's anything else we need to specify. Doesn't look like it. So let's go ahead and create the task. Now ECS tasks do launch very quickly, so it shouldn't take long at all. Let me just clear these confirmation messages. And we can see that the task is in the provisioning status and the desired status is running. So that shouldn't take too long and it will be running. My task is now in the running status. It did take a bit longer than normal, and that's probably because it's a new cluster. Typically, it will be less than a minute, maybe 30 seconds or so for a task to boot up. So I've clicked on the task, and what I'm going to do here is go over to the networking tab, and I'm going to copy the public IP address, and let's pop that into a browser, and we should get to the web page for this particular nginx web server. And there we are. We've got the welcome to nginx message. So that worked successfully. Now what I'm going to do is come back, and we're going to head back up to the cluster, go to tasks, and we're simply going to stop our task. And that's very quick. So now we're going to create a service. Now remember, a service is how you define how many tasks you want to run. So here we're just going to choose to create a service, leave all these defaults, come down, choose my-nginx, give it a name. I'll just call it my-service. And then we're going to set the desired tasks as 2. Now, there's many more options here. We don't need to go into the details for this particular course. But of course, what you can do is modify things like the VPC. The security group, we will do that. We'll change again to our web access security group. You can add load balancers as well. So we don't have a load balancer, but you can add load balancing to your service, and of course auto scaling as well. So I'm going to create this service, and once it's created, it should automatically launch 2 tasks for us. So we can see now that we have 0 of 2 tasks running. Of course, that should change quite quickly. If we head over to tasks, we can now see that they're provisioning. So these are our 2 tasks. And this time it did take probably less than 30 seconds, and both of my tasks are now in the running status. So that's it. That's how simple it is to create a Fargate cluster and then launch tasks and create services within Amazon ECS. So I've actually finished with this particular exercise. So what I'm going to do is come back and delete my service. Now I have to force delete to make sure it terminates those tasks for me as well. Let's delete that. And that's the only thing that actually costs money. So the actual cluster itself doesn't cost you anything. So you feel free to delete this, but you don't need to. And the task definitions don't either. So it's only when you're actually running containers that it's costing you anything.